Ever imagine stepping onto a ship, with the salty air hitting you in the face
Yeah.
and knowing that you're sailing into the vast unknown?
Oh.
That was the reality for Captain James Cook,
Mm.
the British explorer who, on this very day, August 22nd, claimed Australia for the crown
Wow.
back in 1770. And, they say behind every bold explorer is a fascinating story just waiting to be uncovered.
Absolutely.
We're diving deep into Cook's life today, tracing his journey from witnessing dramatic naval battles to
Yeah.
meticulously mapping uncharted territories,
Yeah.
ultimately leading to his historic landing on Australian soil.
What's so fascinating is that Cook's path to exploration wasn't, a straight line.
Right.
His early experiences in the Royal Navy played a pivotal role in shaping his skills as a leader, a navigator, and ultimately a world-renowned explorer.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. You're saying his time on those warships, amidst the chaos of battle, actually laid the groundwork for his future discoveries.
Exactly. Take, for instance, his time aboard the HMS Eagle. It was 1755, the height of the 7 Years' War. Cook, a young sailor at the time, witnessed the sinking of a French warship, the Esperon.
Wait, he actually saw his ship go down right before his eyes.
He did. The Esperon caught fire, and Cook, recognizing the imminent danger of an explosion, steered the Eagle away from the burning vessel.
Wow.
He saw French sailors leaping into the water as their ship sank beneath the waves. It's said that this experience demonstrated Cook's quick thinking and ability to make decisive choices under pressure,
Oh, wow.
qualities that would serve him well in his later expeditions.
Wow, that's a pretty intense experience for a young sailor.
Indeed. But it wasn't just about witnessing destruction. Just a few years later, during the Siege of Louisbourg, Cook showcased his incredible skills in cartography. Imagine the challenge mapping the strategically vital St. Lawrence River under the cover of darkness to avoid enemy fire.
That's some serious dedication to the craft.
Yeah,
It sounds
yeah.
incredibly dangerous, too.
It was.
Mm.
But Cook's resourcefulness and precision under pressure allowed him to create highly accurate maps, which impressed his superiors and solidified his reputation as a skilled surveyor and navigator.
Yeah.
And, there's this fascinating anecdote about Cook pausing his map making to observe a solar eclipse.
He stopped to watch an eclipse while under enemy fire. Talk about a multitasker.
He was always curious, always observing. What's interesting is that his meticulous records of the eclipse caught the attention of scientists back in Britain, further enhancing his reputation. This event highlighted Cook's scientific curiosity, marking him as more than just a skilled seaman.
So he's a seasoned sailor, a talented mapmaker, A&D. He's got a scientific mind. It sounds like all these experiences were shaping him for something bigger.
They were. And that something bigger turned out to be leading a groundbreaking scientific expedition to Tahiti to observe the transit of Venus.
Right.
A mission that would ultimately set the stage for his most famous voyage, the discovery of the east coast of Australia.
Now, the transit of Venus, that sounds intriguing. Before we dive into that, can you explain what that is and why it was such a big deal for scientists back then?
Of course. Imagine Venus, that bright planet we often see in the evening sky passing directly between the Earth and the Sun. That's the transit of Venus, a rare astronomical event that captured the imaginations of scientists in the 18th century. They believed that by observing this transit from different points on Earth, they could calculate the distance between our planet and the Sun.
So it was a pretty significant scientific endeavor. It sounds like they were pushing the boundaries of what was known about the universe at that time.
I were. And Cook, with his proven skills as a navigator and his growing reputation as a meticulous observer, was chosen to lead this expedition. In 1768, he set sail aboard the HMS Endeavour, heading for Tahiti.
So he sets off on this scientific voyage, meticulously preparing to observe this rare celestial event. But you mentioned something about secret orders, right? There was more to this journey than met the eye.
You're absolutely right. While the transit of Venus was the official mission, Cook was also carrying sealed orders and instructions he was only to open after completing the astronomical observations. These secret orders directed him to embark on a quest for the fabled Terra Australis.
Terra Australis, I've heard of that. It was this mythical continent, right? A giant landmass everyone thought existed in the south.
Precisely. For centuries, Europeans believed in the existence of a massive southern continent, mainly based on the idea that the world needed to be balanced with land masses in both hemispheres. They imagined this continent teeming with untold riches and resources, maybe even millions of inhabitants.
Wow.
Finding and claiming Terra Australis was seen as a major prize for any European power.
So Cook set sail with a scientific mission, masking a much grander, almost imperial ambition. It's like something out of an adventure novel.
Yeah.
He's searching for a hidden continent, all while meticulously observing a rare planetary alignment. Did he find this mysterious Terra Australis? Did he succeed in both missions?
Well, that's where the real adventure begins. After successfully observing the transit of Venus in Tahiti, and let me tell you, building an observatory on a remote island in those days was no small feat.
Right.
Cook opened his secret orders and set his course south into uncharted waters in pursuit of the elusive Terra Australis.
So Cook sets off on this incredible journey, navigating through uncharted waters with the weight of his secret mission on his shoulders. You can almost feel the anticipation, the thrill of venturing into the unknown.
Absolutely. Imagine being on that ship, the wind whipping through the sails, the endless expanse of ocean stretching out before you. Every day brought the possibility of a new discovery, a new encounter, a step closer to finding that elusive southern continent.
Okay, so what happened next? Did they find Terra Australis right away?
Not quite. Their first major encounter was with New Zealand. Initially, there was this surge of excitement thinking they had stumbled upon the fabled continent.
I can only imagine the thrill of finally spotting land after months at sea.
But as they explored further, it became clear that New Zealand wasn't the vast landmass they were searching for. It wasn't even a new discovery. Dutch explorer Abel Tasman had already charted it over a century earlier.
Oh, what a letdown that must have been. To think you found this incredible new land, only to realize it's already been mapped.
It certainly wasn't the Terra Australis they'd envisioned, and their encounters with the indigenous Maori people in New Zealand were complex, marked by both moments of peaceful trade and instances of conflict.
It seems like that's a recurring theme throughout history exploration, leading to both connection and clashes between different cultures.
It's a complicated legacy for sure. But despite the setback in New Zealand, Cook remained determined to fulfill his mission. He continued sailing west, driven by the possibility of finding that elusive southern continent. And then after months of navigating through vast stretches of ocean, they finally sighted a coastline unlike anything they'd seen before.
This is it, right? This is the moment they discovered the east coast of Australia?
Precisely. It was April 1770 when Cook and his crew first laid eyes on this vast and unknown land. They had discovered the eastern coast of Australia, a landmass previously unknown to Europeans. It was a moment of triumph, a culmination of months of arduous seafaring and unwavering determination.
I bet the excitement on that ship was palpable. It must have felt like they were stepping onto another planet, encountering plants and animals they'd never seen before.
You're absolutely right. Cook named the area New South Wales and began meticulously charting the coastline, marveling at the unique flora and fauna. And of course, they encountered the Aboriginal people who had called this land home for thousands of years.
What was it like for the Aboriginal people suddenly seeing these strange ships arrive with these foreign explorers stepping onto their shores?
It must have been a bewildering experience. Cook in his journals describes his initial encounters with the Aboriginal people with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Some encounters involved peaceful trade and observation, while others unfortunately escalated into conflict.
It's a reminder that exploration, while driven by curiosity and the thirst for knowledge, often carries unintended consequences.
Indeed. And Cook's mission, while focused on charting the coastline and claiming the land for the British Crown, also involved detailed scientific observation. He was fascinated by the unique wildlife, and famously, he recorded the first European sighting of a kangaroo.
A kangaroo. What was his reaction to seeing such a strange creature?
He initially described it as a kind of giant rat. You can imagine how bizarre it must have seemed to them, seeing this creature hopping around on its powerful hind legs, capable of outrunning greyhounds with its incredible leaps.
That's hilarious. Even the most seasoned explorers can be thrown off by a hopping marsupial.
It highlights just how alien this new land must have felt to them. But their journey wasn't without its perils. At one point, the Endeavour ran aground on the Great Barrier Reef, sustaining significant damage.
Oh no, that sounds terrifying. Stranded on a reef in uncharted territory, thousands of miles from home.
It was a precarious situation. They had to lighten the ship's load by throwing anything they could overboard iron stones, even the cannons.
They tossed cannons into the sea. That shows how desperate they must have been.
It was a testament to their resourcefulness and determination. Thankfully, they managed to refloat the Endeavour and make repairs. They were incredibly lucky.
So they patched up the ship, continued their exploration, and eventually reached the northernmost tip of the continent. And that's where Possession Island comes into the picture, right?
Exactly. After months of meticulously mapping this vast and unfamiliar coastline, claiming the land in the name of King George III, Cook decided he needed a formal way to mark this momentous occasion. He chose a small island off the northern tip of the continent, Possession Island, as the site for a ceremony that would forever alter the course of Australian history.
It's incredible to think that a single ceremony on this tiny island would have such a profound impact on the future of an entire continent.
It's a pivotal moment in history, marking the beginning of British colonization in Australia. On August 22nd, 1770, Cook and a small group of his crew went ashore on Possession Island. They raised the British flag and read a proclamation formally declaring the entire eastern coast of this new land, which Cook named New South Wales, to be a possession of King George III.
It's a bold move, claiming an entire continent for the crown. Did Cook even consider the rights of the Aboriginal people who already lived there?
Yeah, that's a question that has reverberated through history. From Cook's perspective, he was carrying out his orders, fulfilling his duty to the British Empire. But from the perspective of the Aboriginal people, this was an invasion, the beginning of a colonization process that would have devastating consequences for their culture and way of life.
It's a stark contrast, the sense of accomplishment for Cook and the British, and the sense of dispossession for the Aboriginal people. It really highlights the complex legacy of exploration.
You've hit the nail on the head. Cook's voyages were groundbreaking in terms of scientific discovery and cartography. His maps, especially those of the Great Barrier Reef, were incredibly accurate and used for navigation for centuries. But the impact of his arrival, the wave of European settlement that followed, and the subsequent colonization of Australia had profound and lasting effects on the Aboriginal population.
So he accomplished his mission. He found this new land, mapped its coastline, and claimed it for the crown. But at what cost? Yeah, it really makes you think, what was the true cost of these discoveries?
Yeah.
And he opened up new worlds, expanded our understanding of the planet. His meticulous maps guided sailors for centuries. But we can't ignore the impact on the Aboriginal people, the displacement, the cultural disruption that followed in the wake of his arrival.
Right. It's a complicated legacy, a story kind of woven with threads of scientific advancement and exploration and, unfortunately, colonization.
Yeah.
Cook's voyages were groundbreaking, no doubt. But they also set in motion a chain of events that would forever alter the landscape of Australia and the lives of its indigenous inhabitants.
It makes you think about the nature of exploration itself, doesn't it? The drive to discover the unknown, to push boundaries.
Yeah.
But what happens when those boundaries are already inhabited by people who have their own rich cultures and deep connection to the land?
Yeah, it's a question that continues to resonate today as we grapple with the complexities of history and the impact of exploration and colonization on indigenous populations worldwide. Cook's story serves as a reminder that progress often comes at a price.
Right.
And sometimes that price is paid by those who have the least power to resist.
It's a sobering thought.
Right.
But we can't just erase history or pretend these events didn't happen. Instead, we have to learn from them.
Right.
Use them as a starting point for conversations about responsibility, about ethical exploration, about understanding and respecting different cultures.
Exactly. Cook's voyages and the subsequent colonization of Australia offer valuable lessons about the importance of cultural sensitivity, the need to consider the rights and perspectives of indigenous populations, and the responsibility we all have to learn from the past to shape a more just and equitable future.
It's about acknowledging the full spectrum of history, isn't it? The triumphs and the tragedies, the complexities and contradictions.
Yeah.
We can't just celebrate the achievements of explorers like Cook without also grappling with the consequences of their actions.
You're absolutely right. It's about moving beyond a simplistic hero narrative and recognizing that even the most celebrated figures in history were products of their time.
Right.
They had flaws, made mistakes, and sometimes acted in ways that we would find unacceptable today.
It's about understanding the nuances, the gray areas, the unintended consequences that often accompany even the most well-intentioned endeavors.
Precisely. And by examining those nuances, by confronting uncomfortable truths about our past, we can hopefully learn and grow and work towards a future where exploration and discovery are conducted with respect, sensitivity, and a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all cultures and peoples.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the fascinating and complex story of Captain James Cook. From his early days witnessing naval battles to his meticulous mapping of uncharted territories and his controversial claim on Australia, Cook's life and voyages offer a glimpse into a pivotal period in history, a time of great discovery and exploration, but also a time marked by colonization and its lasting impact on indigenous communities.
His story is a tapestry woven with threads of adventure, scientific curiosity, and ambition, but also with threads of conflict, cultural clashes, and the unintended consequences of human actions. It's a story that invites us to reflect, to learn, and to consider how we can navigate the complexities of the past to create a more just and equitable future.
So as you continue to explore the world, whether through books, travel, or simply by engaging with different perspectives, remember to approach each new discovery with an open mind, a critical eye, and a deep respect for the cultures and histories you encounter.
And if you're eager to delve deeper into fascinating stories from history, science, and culture, be sure to subscribe to The Deep Dive for more thought-provoking conversations and in-depth explorations. Until next time, keep exploring and keep questioning.